All right, so it was funny working on this. We haven't been doing a lot of kind of YouTube conversation videos over the last couple of years because, frankly, I think we matured as a channel, and I think most of the channels around us, with one exception, have matured out of really doing YouTube gossip. We always, even back when we did it, had the principle there has to be a broader point to doing it. It can't just be, look what this one said about that one.
Right.
If ever there was a case that clears that bar, it was the conversation that Cenk Uygur had with Francesca. How do you say her last name?
Fiorentini.
Fiorentini, right?
Fiorentini. Yeah.
All right. I always thought she was very talented. I haven't seen her work in a while, but even back when she was doing AJ, I always thought she was very good. She's a little bit Libby, but she does as good a job holding Cenk to account in this video as anyone who's not going to just straight up say, this is about the money. This is about jumping out in front of the parade. She's not going to go that far. She still works for them, and politically, she's still aligned. She's not quite as radical as we are. But on the whole, she does a very good job in this interview. So let's take a look at the first clip.
I happen to agree with Elon and Vivek on that issue.
I was going to ask you, actually.
Okay, so this is Cenk is with them on the HB1 visas. Her comments here, I must say, this is one segment where she doesn't cover herself in glory. She seems to, on the one hand, accuse MAGA of being racists for being against the visas, and on the other hand, point out the wealth of Vivek and Elon as a possible motivating factor. So she doesn't seem to know what she thinks.
Yeah, but first of all, hey, there I am agreeing with Elon and Vivek. Why? Because they agree with us on H1B
So this is about
visas.
HHB1 visas and allowing high-skilled professional immigrant workers who work in tech to be allowed in. The MAGA base says that that's obviously immigration and they want to cut down on that. But Elon and Vivek, again, two millionaire and the richest man on earth, want that. Does that not fly? Does that not fly in the face of some of what you've been saying about the base and how the base is actually great and the base has great populist ideas? One of those populist ideas, Cenk, is mass deportations, is stopping any migration, is getting people out of this country.
Yeah. So, Franny, it's a great question. And so that's why what's happening today is actually so interesting. Because, number one, are we allowed to agree with anyone on the other side? Elon said terrible things. He backed that crazy radical right-wing party in Germany, et cetera, right? But that doesn't mean he's wrong about these visas. We've had that position on visas our whole lives, right? We agree with, or he has now come to agree with us. Same with Vivek. Now, but what's interesting is, so now MAGA...
He hasn't come to agree with you. He's
always
just wanted...
it's almost done.
The populist base of MAGA rebels against Elon and Vivek. So, number one, that shows that that my thesis that they will rebel against their leaders is true.
Okay. All right. So go ahead. Yes.
Well, it's fairly simple. I mean, it's very obvious. He hasn't come to their. He hasn't.
That's
been
an amazing claim. It's an amazing claim. Elon and Vivek, these Silicon Valley billionaires, were, we don't want to take the cheap labor that can't unionize on these H-1B visas, but, I'm coming around to the left position.
Right.
This is very typical of the verbal jujitsu he keeps trying to pull with this, that they're coming to him, not that he's going to them.
Right.
You see, they're coming to us, so why wouldn't I want to have a conversation? Right? It's just, that was one of the stupidest claims he makes in this interview. They came around to the left point of view on this, and it's so muddy. So what do you mean? Because that's an anti-racist position? Is that what you're saying? She doesn't seem to know what she thinks about that. At first, she leans into the racism, then she points out that they're billionaires who want this, and then she characterizes the MAGA base as being racist for being against it. Okay, so we've spent most of this show showing the contradictions going on in the MAGA movement. You want to see the contradictions going on among the liberal left. There you go. They can't even figure out how to talk about this.
Right.
Because on the one hand, yeah, well, this is clearly a tech overlord Silicon Valley billionaire agenda, which she nods to. But then she can't help but fall back on, yeah, but that's not why they have an issue with it. They have an issue with it because MAGA is racist. So moving along.
On the right, you guys do a great job.
All right, so this is where Cenk, he went to Turning Point and really sucked off Catman here, which Francesca rightly points out.
Of coalescing, okay? So you do a couple of things well. You work together well, and you're more welcoming, if I'm being honest.
We're glad Cenk's here, right, everybody?
And a lot of people on the left know this as well. If you agree with MAGA 5%, the answer you get is welcome, right? Come join us, right? On the left, if you disagree 5%, they go, get out of here, you're a right-winger, you're a fascist, right? But if you push enough people out and you guys welcome enough people in, eventually you win the popular vote. That's what I warned them about, and that's what happened, right?
Okay, so there you are, and you know,
Yeah, love it. Stick with 100% of what I just said there. I'm
killed it.
100% right about that.
Yeah,
So let's
nailed
just-
it.
here's what happens. Couple things. He asks you about left-wing media and why there isn't more left-wing media, which already, as you are there, you know, in the sort of kingdom of turning points, is like, that's such a dig. Like, why are you guys so weak is effectively what he's saying. And instead of pointing out the way that TPUSA has been bankrolled by Republican mega donors out of Chicago and many other places for years now, and talking about how the Daily Wire was funded by the fracking brothers, the Wilkes brothers. Now they're fishing for new, you know, investors, whatnot, but that there is so much money on the right. He handed this answer to you on a fucking platter, and all you said was, you know what? You guys are really good at being welcoming. People just like you. Cenk.
Okay, so she gets into something
all
else
wrong.
here.
It's the wrong tone.
All right, so just to address that, because so many of us in our particular space came out, are disaffected former Bernie bros, we're very focused on exposing hypocrisy on our own side and pointing out that, for example, Cenk took that 20 million of Katzenberg money. We don't spend as much time getting into who funds Turning Points and who funds Daily Wire, partly because if you're on the left, we just assume that. We just assume that they're being funded by their own shadowy billionaires. It's amazing to me, if you want to talk about Trump, people are going to go on about Soros, who don't mind Miriam Adelson owning Trump body and soul. It bothers you that Citibank picked Obama's cabinet. It doesn't bother you that Miriam Adelson picked Trump's. So, of course, she's absolutely right. And she's absolutely right that, hey, that would be the thing to bring up there, right? Well, how do you guys afford all this? Who pays for this? But you'd never get invited back. You'd never get invited back, right? And that's really where he's coming from. And that's what I'm saying. She does a very good job, better than I've seen anyone else do, of interrogating him and even touch on his motives. But there are places she just won't go.
Yeah, she's going pretty hard for someone who works for him. That's like harder. That I would be more afraid of my boss than that. I mean, like, my first job was at a Pizza Hut. I walked into the Pizza Hut. This place fucking blows. All right, give me a fucking apron. I'll make some of your bullshit pizza, you stupid bitch.
You're a fucking hypocrite.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, talk to my manager like that. Yeah, that's quite ballsy.
All right, so she goes on about this 5% thing, which I've got to say, man. Again, so many of us are coming out of breaking away from the Democratic Party, and we've been fighting that war for so long that we just haven't really laid into the right in this way in a long time. But this whole, yeah, they're much more welcoming. You know, she interrogates that in a way I think is very smart.
They've got all the money.
I didn't say people just
what are
like
you
me. That's very
talking
different.
about? That's effectively what you're good at coalescing. And here's my question to you about so that's just number one on the media, because that just stings because I'm in media. But on the 5%, if you disagree with MAGA 5%, they still welcome you. How did that work out for Liz Cheney?
Yeah. So look, is there a part of MAGA that'll push you out? Of course. That's what we know MAGA for.
When do they push you out, Cenk? When do they push you out?
Largely when you disagree with Trump.
Exactly.
So listen,
this is the thing that it's the unspoken thing that you're never saying, that ultimately it's all hunky-dory. Elon can tweet back at you. Vivek can listen to you. But if you defy Donald Trump, the God Emperor, you're kicked out of the castle. And no one's defending Liz Cheney. Screw both their castle and the other castle. But Liz Cheney voted with Donald Trump 98% of the time. And just the 1% when she was like, hey, you know what? You can't do a coup on this country. And Adam Kissinger, and they were gone. So miss me with this 5% BS, yo.
Where's the lie? Where's the lie? You know, we spend a lot of time, again, because of the lane we're in, because of who we're surrounded by, talking about, well, MAGA's more willing to have a conversation. I mean, they are and they aren't. Just like with the libs, it depends on what it is.
It depends on what it is. Right.
She's not wrong. Sure. Yeah, you can say, actually, with some of these people, you can't say shit about Elon. Maybe now you can.
Well, now you can. Well, yeah, now it's open season on Elon. But yeah, for a while there, you couldn't. Now, obviously, I mean, her interpretation of January 6th.
I had people losing their mind because I was making fun of the Cybertruck.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, I'll say her interpretation of January 6th is a bit libby and blue-pilled.
That's what I mean. She's kind of libby, but she's not wrong.
Well, the point
like
is...
Like what? Liz Cheney's a lib?
Right, she's
not
a lib
now.
Right. I mean, she crossed a red line that I could understand is a red line if you believe that she was part of a criminal conspiracy to essentially entrap. And it's not technically entrapment what they did on January 6th, but it was a setup. Entrapment, I know specific definitions because of the Newburgh 4 case. In order for it to be entrapment, the dupe, the target, the mark, has to be unwilling to participate in the event, which obviously the January 6ers were not unwilling to do it.
Let's put it this way.
It was a setup, and so like I understand from MAGA's point of view where that would be a line in the sand. But yeah, I mean the fact remains she's not a liberal, right? She's certainly not a liberal, and they're certainly not like you could have a very conservative voting record and vote with Donald Trump almost 100% of the time while still being excluded based on certain issues, certain factors. It's certainly not 5%. It's not 5%. They want more than 5% loyalty. I think the truth is somewhere in the middle there.
They certainly do. And yes, the way she framed that is unfortunate. But hey, we were among the few left podcasts that were sympathetic to the people who were being prosecuted from the beginning.
Right.
From the beginning, not as things evolved. From the beginning, you were really screaming about excessive prosecution.
Yeah, they're overcharged. I always thought they were overcharged.
Overcharging from the beginning. From the
very start.
And at the same time, when we said during the election season, now people are waking up a little. When we said, yeah, I mean, Donald Trump's didn't do anything for you the first time. You're an op. You're an op. Who's paying you?
Like a better example would have been Mitch McConnell. Because Mitch McConnell, yeah, he's had his dust-ups with Trump over his personality and that. But Mitch McConnell, I mean, look what Mitch McConnell did for him. I mean, Mitch McConnell is all about power politics. Mitch McConnell got Amy Pancakes through at the last second there. Right. He pulled that together, and that's why you have no more Roe v. Wade, which was a huge win for the conservative movement. So yeah, I mean, he has a tenuous relationship with Trump, and so they fucking hate him. Even though politically he's done a whole lot for them and has been overall pretty fucking loyal to Trump. That would have been a better example than Liz Cheney, because Liz Cheney crossed the red line where I can understand they would draw it there. Mitch McConnell will be a better example, but the point remains: they demand more than 5% loyalty.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like she's kind of lib, which is unfortunate. But overall, I think she did a pretty good job. As good a job as anyone who Cenk is going to be willing to do an interview with is going to do.
And he's her boss. I mean, that
and he's her boss. Well, at the end, they really get into it. We're we're not doing that section. But at the end, they really start spilling the tea on all the people who have gone through TYT that Cenk attacks now, and how she's afraid she's going to be next. And yeah, we're not covering that. That is the kind of thing we don't want to do.
Right.
That's just gossip and
personality.
If you're interested in it, it's like the last 20 minutes or so. Okay, so here's our little thing about immigration policy, which is pretty fascinating.
You want to have a beer with people who want to put people in mass deportation camps. They want to deport.
You think we're going to get put in camps? You sound all right. Anyway,
you think I sound crazy? They're starting with Chinese people. That's my fucking family, dog. Like, what are you talking about?
Their family. Did you know that just before the Han Dynasty, there was the famous Fiorentini Dynasty? I don't know if you knew that. Yeah, they don't teach that in communist school.
It's the branch of the family that brought pasta back to Venice.
Exactly. I know she's probably Chinese on her mother's side. I'm joking. I know we're gonna get shit in the chat. The Fiorentinis are Father's Day, but yeah, her mother's Chinese. I guess that much. Trying to do a funny show. Trying to keep the jokes going.
Okay, they're going to start with Muslims. They're going to start with my people. Okay,
Sure.
All.
Yeah.
Stop hiding behind vulnerable communities.
I'm hiding behind vulnerable communities.
Yes, you are. You're using
I'm
them as
standing in front of vulnerable communities. James, what are you doing? What are you doing?
I'm in front of vulnerable communities. I'm the most endangered friend.
By tweeting at Elon Musk?
Oh, yeah, you're in front of vulnerable communities, all right, Ralph? Can hardly even see them behind you.
Please, don't help me. Come on, James. This is so sad.
All right. That you want to talk about fucking with your boss, because we were laughing over that.
I'm standing in front of vulnerable communities. James, what are you doing? What are you doing?
I'm in front of vulnerable communities. I'm the most endangered friend.
By tweeting at Elon Musk? Please don't help me. Come on, James. This is so sad.
I mean, I credit where credit is due there. But again, here, I mean, they're both pretty fucking all over the place. Her thing, I mean, she's really representing that ultra lib point of view. Oh, yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with the immigration system. There's no reason that anyone could be upset about it except for racism. That could be the only motivation. Cenk, I don't know what the fuck he's even talking about. You're standing out in front of vulnerable communities. How? In what way? What is he even talking about?
No, I mean that line. I mean you talk about just kowtowing to the Trump base. I mean, you would hear Rush Limbaugh say a thing like that. You would hear Ann Coulter say a thing like that. That was her main critique of liberals, is that they hide behind vulnerable communities, right? I mean that's basically what he's saying there, and I don't even know what kind of sense that makes in this context. And this is the irony of this, like, and I've gotten into this before. When Trump won the first time, the world was relatively stable compared to now. The stakes were relatively low compared to now.
Right.
It's not to say there weren't horrors going on. There are always horrors afoot, but relative to now, where you got World War III cooking ultra hot on two flames and getting pretty hot on the China burner as well. You have Donald Trump set to inherit a genocide on day one, which, as far as I'm concerned, he owns on day one because he has advocated for it. It's not like he's stuck with a hot potato that he's got to manage. No, he's been for it. So on day one, that's now his. He now owns that. The war in Ukraine, he's promised to end in 24 hours. Every move he's made since winning has signaled he's going to go back on that promise. As she mentioned, mass deportations. This time, unlike last time, you're talking about real shit going down when Trump wins this time. You're talking about Trump inheriting a genocide this time. Last time when Trump won, the most interesting thing going on after he won was that you had a bunch of libs, including, ironically enough, Cenk Uygur, insisting that his election victory was some sort of Russian plot to undermine the United States. So 8 years ago, was the time to see about forging common ground with MAGA and extending an olive branch. This time, the task is to do what we're doing, which is to expose MAGA as a fraudulent movement at the top levels and to convince the rank and file that, unfortunately, despite a lot of you guys coming into that with good faith, have been had. So we're going to take the depressed libs and the burned MAGA people and try to build a bottom-up populist coalition based on what we consider to be left values and left economic ideas. But we are going to pick up the pieces from a fractured system. Now is the time to do that. Now is not the time to kiss MAGA's ass, because MAGA owns this genocide in 22 days.
Right.
You want to be, you want to be yucking it up with Charlie Kirk while Donald Trump is sending the bombs to wipe out what's left of Gaza? You really want to be standing on that stage? You really want to be sitting on that stage when that's happening? No, you don't.
Well, I mean, he's such a bullshit artist that anyone who makes that point, he's going to say, I was telling these guys. Right. I was telling them the whole time.
Right.
Look,
was saying the exact opposite the whole time. Yeah.
Right. The money is not in what you're describing. The money is in being a dancing monkey for Patrick Bet-Davis and for Charlie Kirk and for Tim Pool, so that you can have access to their audiences. Right. That's what this is about. It's not about movement building for him. And this is what I mean. She does as good a job as anyone that he's going to sit down for an interview with is going to do.
Right.
He's not sitting down with people like us who are going to say things like that to him. The big elephant in the room, aside from Cenk, the question that she will not ask. Hey, weren't you the prime example of the kind of censorious left person you're describing 5 minutes ago? Weren't you the one shouting down even people on the left as Putin puppets? You're screaming about people who do real journalism like Aaron Mate, accusing them of being treasonous. Wasn't that you? Right. Who was that until MAGA won? And she does in the next clip. She walks up to that as far as she can, as long as she's getting a paycheck from this guy. So let's take a look.
Imagine if Kamala Harris had won. Okay, she wins. She wins the popular vote. She wins obviously the Electoral College. Incredible, first female president, blah, 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 all this stuff. And Tucker Carlson started making all these rounds on really progressive leftist shows, went on Kyle's show, went on my show. I'm like, who the hell? Started reaching out and wanting to talk and wanting to come to agreement on things. What would that look like to you? Yeah, you know what? I did say that Kamala Harris was a DEI hire and she's basically a communist, but now I just feel like I've antagonized you and I'm here to break bread and let's talk and let's get stuff done. What would that look like to you?
It would look surprising, but I wouldn't care. I'd find it interesting. Why? What does it look like to you?
I mean, to me, if Tucker Carlson did that, I'd be like, oh, we fucking won. We won like crazy. We won so resoundingly. He's doing an apology tour because 3 ghosts visited him in the middle of the night and he's completely changed his tune because he wants to throw down with the winners. We are crushing it. And I saw in that moment, you want me to play it for you? When Charlie Kirk goes, we're glad Cenk's here, everybody. And that was the feeling that I think a lot of right-wingers have when they look at you, Cenk, where they're like, damn, yo, we crushed so hard. Even this guy is turning now.
And she's absolutely right. She's absolutely right. That's as close as she's going to come to calling him a grifter. But that's essentially what she's saying, right? And she's absolutely right. How do you think they read that at Turning Point? Charlie Kirk's carrying his head around on a spike on that stage, and everyone's going, yeah, we got Cenk. We got even Cenk is here. bending the knee to us. That's how this plays. It's touring the barbarians that were defeated in Germania through the center of Rome.
Right. All right. And the main difference is timing, as far as I can see. Like, it's too late for this now. It's too late.
He's trying to jump out in front of the parade and make himself that bridge, make himself that voice, which for anyone who's been singing the song of, hey, there's a lot of opportunity with the MAGA base to bring them over to left positions. You were calling everyone who said that a right-wing grifter. You were calling us all Putin puppets. You were screaming about Russiagate. Now all of a sudden you want to jump out in front of that conversation?
Well, but also, if you want to do persuading, you actually have to do persuading. Like, you actually have
He's just kissing their asses.
Right. He's just there to kiss their ass. And the one time he tried to, start a conversation was, because he was talking about the trans women in sports and things like that.
Yeah,
and he's like, okay, so I agree with the trans women in sports, but wouldn't you agree that they have the same constitutional rights to housing? And they didn't applaud at all. And what Charlie Kirk tries to bail him out,
some of them did. Of them.
What Charlie Kirk says is, what you're getting there is that there is no constitutional right to housing. Right?
Yes. Right.
And he was trying to make it like that's why they didn't applaud. Who knows the real reason? I have my suspicions. The point is, when he tried to do that, he fucking totally botched it, right? Because he's just not smart enough to do it. And the point is, that's not where you should be going. You shouldn't be indulging those culture war issues at a moment like this. At a moment when the Doge tech bro wing is now coming at odds with the more earthy, grubby populist wing. Now, to be fair, that Turning Point's appearance was before this whole thing broke out. Yeah. But you could see the tension starting to simmer. That's why Donald Trump said he's not the president, I'm the president. You could see the tension starting to simmer around the spending bill, where you had this tech bro oligarch exerting more influence over the Republican caucus than Donald Trump. You could see that starting to fracture. So if you were smart and actually serious about radicalizing MAGA into your camp, that's where you would go. You wouldn't go with a trans sports thing. That's a guy trying to attract an audience of Dave Rubin fans, because he feels like Dave Rubin made the move when it was profitable, and now his brand of politics is not profitable, and so he's playing catch up. But it's too late. It's too late.
Well, and there's why, and she even calls him out on this, and we've talked about this. He keeps making out as if them booing Mitch McConnell is a recent innovation. That was the message of the entire Trump 2016 campaign.
Of course,
he beat 16 establishment Republicans by attacking them in that way, by being dismissive of iconic people, even like John McCain. Say, oh, I prefer soldiers to get captured. You would think that would be a third rail, right? Like this. Now you just realize that the MAGA base hates the entire Republican establishment like that. He's trying to justify why he just got there now by pretending that what he's describing is a recent phenomena, not something that's been present from the beginning.
Exactly.
Please clap.